I did it, I did it, I did it. Okay, guys, welcome back. I can't believe I did it. Oh my god, oh my god. So, I have now officially completed 7 books in 7 days as per Booktubeathon challenge has been accepted and completed and won. Ah! I completed the entire challenge, but I did change one book. I decided to pick up Juniper Lemon's Happiness Index, which is the one that everyone was doing a read-along for. The one book that I didn't get to finish was called Divergence, and it didn't enthrall me. I got to about the same place I got to last time I started reading, and I didn't really click with any of the characters, and the setup wasn't exciting enough to make me want to know what happens to everyone in it. And because I wasn't so enchanted with it, I was like, I'm not going to push this. I've only got 1 day to go. So I really quickly ran to the bookshop and I picked up Juniper Lemon, which I'm so thankful that I did because I read it super quickly, super easily. I don't think I would have finished had I continued reading this book, so that's why I set it down for now. I think my least favourite and my absolute favourites were probably Wild Like Me was my least favourite. I still enjoyed it, but The Messenger was amazing. Oh, but so was Geekarella, The Fifth Wave, 10,000 Pieces of You. Oh, they were all really good books, actually. The book that I was going to choose for someone different to me, which is one of the challenges, is to read a book about someone who is entirely different to you. And I was going to choose the characters from the science fiction book that I did not read. So instead I was like, well, who am I going to choose to satisfy that character now? And I've decided to choose Robin Wilde from Wild Like Me. She's very different to me. She thinks incredibly different to me. The book goes through the story of her kind of coming out of her shell and finding her place in her world that has nothing to do with how other people judge her, or, well, it kind of does. She seems to be a person who feels the judgment of other people, especially other mothers. She feels a lot of pressure to fit into the crowd and feels people judging her, but at the same time she herself is incredibly judgmental. And I was just like, wow, why do you care about these things? Just, you know, just live your life. You don't have to judge who you are by what man you're seeing or what your mother thinks about your ex-husband. It was still a good book. I did do a lot of ranting in this book, so you know how I usually underline and exclamation mark and like circle good bits and stuff. This one, I was doing that constantly. I couldn't read it unless I had a pencil in my hand. It was also the one that I read outside, so I was sitting on my balcony in the freezing cold with all my jackets on, in the sunshine when it was sunshiny. It was far too cold when the sun went behind the clouds, so I had to come inside. I had the pencil, pulling the pencil out of my hair and scribbling furious notes. There were whole scenes in this book that I thought should have been in there that weren't. Because it kind of jumps some time and it misses some scenes that I was like, it would have been really rewarding had we seen her talking to her best friends about this before she made the decision. It would have been really cool if her child could have said something to her just before she left. Like, there were a couple of different things in there that were just very blatantly missing, and I would have written this book a lot different to how the author has. So yes, this is the book of the challenging book of the challenge. It was still quite good and funny in places. I did laugh out loud a couple of times, but not like me at all. The one that I think was the most like me, Geekarella. I really enjoyed this book. I might do a full review on it later because I think it follows I guess a trope, I don't know, a storyline that we've all heard before, Cinderella, obviously. And it is really good. It's the same thing hashed over again and again and again, like every single Cinderella story that you've ever heard of, but it was still refreshing and new, and it still had its own personal twists to it, and I loved the characters and I loved everything. I was so happy by this book. I read it in a day. It was my the book that I read in a day, and I've read them all in a day pretty much. But this is the one I used for that challenge because I thought it would be quick and easy, and it was really satisfying. A really happy read. The Fifth Wave, I don't have much to say about it because although it was really good and interesting, and I liked the excitement and the drama of it all and the dystopian future, I always love those, there are 2 more books that I definitely need to read now, and that's, I like standalone novels better because now I feel like I shouldn't have read those other books after this. I should have read the sequels, and now I'll never get around to reading the sequels because that's just what happens. I have so many series now that I have to read. But still, real good. Can't wait to pick up the next 2. The Messenger was a great standalone novel. I think it really resonated with me because I'm a writer and I like playing with perception and what the audience is thinking about. But now I have to read The Book Thief. I'm really excited to. My dad said it's a great novel as well, so I'm really excited to get into that. 1,000 Pieces of You, it was really good. It followed dimensional travel and not time travel, so that was really cool because it showed the development of society throughout time and how it felt like you were time traveling even though you weren't. I really enjoyed it. There was a couple of things where I was like, I'm not sure that really quite makes sense with like the sciencey side of things. And if they'd have just said it works with magic, I might have believed it a bit more, but because they said it worked with science, I wanted to understand it. But of course these things haven't actually been invented yet, like the firebirds that let them travel through different dimensions. That was annoying, but I love that. I love that fake sciencey stuff. So I was like, oh, I wish there was more of this the things that they glossed over. But at the same time I was like, but if you just told me it was magic, I would believe you more. So that was an interesting thing, but great read. And then Happiness Index, I think I'll do my own review of this just after I see what everybody else has to say about it. There's a character in here called You that you never get to find out who it is, and I have my own theory about who that might be. And I will be interesting to see if anybody else has come to the same conclusion as me. It's not necessarily the best conclusion, but it's what I believe, having read it. I'm like, well, that's an alternate ending that could have gone a very different way. And then lastly, The Sandman, which I read in an afternoon. I have issues with this book. Once I finally clicked into how the pages were set up and how I was supposed to follow the story and look at the pictures and everything, different to manga, I wanted to know more about the characters and I didn't really like anything about it. It was a graphic novel. I see why they call them graphic novels, underlying the graphic. Pretty gross pictures. It's not my style of writing or my style of drawing or art that I liked at all, but the very last story in this, you get to meet the Sandman character when he's not going on an adventure. He's just he's just feeding the birds, and then you meet the character of Death, and who is his sibling. That really excited me. I really loved that last chapter. And I was like, alright, here's the storyline, here are the characters, this is what I'm enjoying. And then I read a little bit at the end that Neil Gaiman wrote about the story, and he said that he also enjoyed exploring the character in the last. He really felt like he was coming into his own writing at the end, and I was like, that's interesting because me too, you. But yeah, so I'm happy to have read this, but I'm kind of glad it's over. I'm not keen to pick up the rest. Oh look, it's like, oh, this is very similar, look at that. I'm so proud of myself for doing this. Thank you so much for watching. I did realize sort of halfway through the challenge that it's a Booktubeathon. It's more about making videos as the challenge than actually finish reading the books, but the challenge for me is always going to be reading over filmmaking, because reading's my passion, not this, not talking to cameras. Reading, writing, art, then way down the list is booktubing. Although I do really appreciate talking about books, so it's a weird thing I've got going on here, a strange creative outlet that I'm just not sure about. The priority was reading for me, and I did it, and I'm so happy and proud of myself that I did it. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I will hopefully come at you with more regular videos about more books that I'm reading. Alright, thanks so much for watching. How do you turn this thing off?